Are you looking to add some variegated plants to your collection, but you're unsure of which ones to pick up? Well, I've got you. I've been growing variegated plants for 3 to 4 years now, and I've definitely had my fair share of challenging variegated plants that like to lose their variegation and they're more hard to grow. And I've had my fair share of easier variegated plants that grow like a dream with minimal issues. Whether you are a new plant parent who has the variegated plant bug, or you're an experienced plant parent who just wants to try something new for your collection, you're in the right spot. In today's video, we're going to be going through 10 easy, in my opinion, variegated plants that you could add to your collection. So these would be great for beginner starter variegated plants, and then you can work your way up into the more challenging ones and see exactly what I mean. Grab your coffee and let's get into it. Plant number 1 is Hoya Heuschkeliana Variegata. This is such an easy plant. I got this as a small cutting a couple of years ago, and it has just taken off and grown like a weed. I've chopped this plant many times. The top is quite bushy now, as you can see, because I've propagated it, and it's sprouted new growth points at the top of the plant, which I love. And the new leaves come in this pinky peach color and fade to a yellow with a dark green border, and I think that it is so pretty. If you don't have this Hoya in your collection, this Hoya is a quick seller. Everybody wants this plant. It grows like a weed, it propagates like a dream. It's just all around a very great investment plant. Or if you're not into selling Hoyas or plants, it's just a beautiful plant to put on your shelf. This plant will make any plant shelf pop. As long as it has some light to grow, it will be happy. You don't need high humidity, you don't need all that fancy stuff. Just give it some light or a sunny window and watch it take off. Plant number 2 is a Jessenia Pothos, or Epipremnum Jessenia. This is such a beautiful and easy grower. The variegation comes in this beautiful yellow color, and it eventually fades down to a darker green, but the new leaves all come in such a pretty color. If you give this plant lots of light or put it in a windowsill, it just takes off and grows so quickly. I love this plant. I bought this plant as an investment plant last year or the year before, and it has made me quite a bit of money just selling cuttings of it. It's really nice to have beautiful variegated plants that are low maintenance. Like, look how pretty that variegation is. Tell me that that's not beautiful. You can grow this plant trailing or up a pole to get those big, beautiful leaves. Plants by Melissa actually has a beautiful Jessenia that's growing up a pole, and I'm just in awe of how well she's done with that plant. This plant has so much potential and is just so beautiful. Like, look at that. I'm obsessed. This propagates super well in water. It also propagates easily in moss or perlite. So if you don't have this plant and you're nervous about it, but you like it, I would say go for it. It's really easy. Plant number 4 is a variegated Philodendron Domesticum. This is just a piece of my plant. I used to have a huge plant of this, but I did chop it up. All of the cuttings rooted super quickly, super easily in moss and perlite, and I was able to turn a profit off of this plant as well. This plant in particular has beautiful half-moon leaves. And this one here is quite marbled and pretty. And the cuttings that I got from this plant, one of them was like a half moon plant and one was like a super marbly plant. And I had a couple more too. I don't remember exactly what the variegation was, but it's just so sweet how versatile the variegation can present on this plant. You can even get like white patches of variegation, which I think is stunning. Philodendron Domesticum Variegata is a lower cost variegated philodendron that doesn't take much effort. If you put it on a pole, if you just let it grow, either way, it's happy. If you want the larger leaves, obviously you would put it on a pole, but I'm actually gonna try to grow this one on a bamboo stick and see if the leaves will size up. I like to do that with a lot of plants because I don't want to have a copious amount of moss poles in my house. So I like to try to put them on a bamboo stake first and see if I can get the plant to size up that way before I'll put it on a pole. But this is such a beautiful plant. I love the long, slender leaves. I love the pops of color on it. I love how easy it is to grow. I've had, I think, 2 cuttings lose variegation on me. out of probably like 10 or 12. And I think that's a pretty high turnout. So if you're looking for an easy variegated plant that is a philodendron, I know I have a lot of philodendron lovers out there, pick up the Domesticum. It's such an easy variegated plant and it's relatively affordable. And it's just so pretty. Plant number 4 is Alocasia Wentii Variegated. So this is the first variegated Alocasia that I picked up. This Alocasia is stunning. Like, do you see those beautiful leaves? Every single leaf is like artwork. I think everybody needs this plant in their collections. It is probably my favorite variegated Alocasia that I own. The new leaves come in like pinky, purpley, and then they fade down. This plant has hints of pink, white, green, purple. It just has like every beautiful color in it that you would want to see in a variegated plant. It sizes up super quickly. It grows like a dream. It does not disappoint with the variegation. Every single leaf is variegated and stunning. And these ones aren't too expensive to pick up either. Look at the backs of the leaves. Like, how pretty is that? Every piece of this plant is just magic, and it grows so quickly. I can't even believe how quickly this plant has grown since I've gotten it. I'll pop in a picture up here of when I first got it, and I'll also pop in a picture of a new leaf. Like, they just come in spectacular. I am never getting rid of this plant. I'm going to keep it forever. I want to see how big I can get it. I think seeing a huge brand new leaf on this, like a big leaf, would just be a dream. So if you're looking to get into the world of variegated alocasias, but you're terrified, I suggest this be your first one because, wow, does not disappoint. So pretty, easy to grow. And one thing I've noticed about this plant is it's quite thirsty. So just make sure you keep on top of watering. There's been times I've let it dry out and it literally hasn't even skipped a beat, but don't let it dry out for too long. I just have her in pond and no drainage, which is my typical setup for alocasias, and she's happy as can be. Alocasia Wentii Variegated. And then we have the variegated heartleaf philodendron. This is such a pretty plant and so underestimated. When this first came out, I was like, no, it's kind of just like a marble queen pothos. There's nothing special about it. And then my friend asked me to babysit her plants for her for a little while, and she had one of these and it was huge and it was growing up a pole, and oh my goodness, I fell in love with it and I had to get one. Look at that leaf. The new leaves come in like a red color. I wish I had one to show you. They're super pretty, and then they fade down to white and green of all different shades. It's just a stunning plant. It grows super fast. You could get this one trailing, get it climbing up a pole. You could probably put it on a trellis even and it would be happy. I have mine growing in tree fern and pond, and it has rooted like a dream in there. I do need to repot it, but I still haven't figured out what I want to do with this plant or how I want to grow it, so I just have it sitting on my windowsill for now. But the older leaves fade down. They still look variegated, but they do fade down, but the new leaves come in just beautiful. There is nothing wrong about this plant. This plant does not disappoint. It is such a beautiful plant and a very quick grower. I have propagated this plant many different ways in water, perlite, and moss, and it has been happy as a clam in each different substrate that I've used. So if you're looking for a beginner variegated plant that you want to trail down your shelf or see those big, huge leaves climbing up a pole, grab this one. It's affordable, it grows like a weed, propagates like a dream, and it's just so pretty. Next up is my variegated Hoya Lida Buis. So this is the inner variegated Hoya. Wow, it is so pretty, and Hoya blooms quite easily. This one has a peduncle on the end, which I can't wait to open because I've never had a Hoya bloom for me. So this one had 2 of these super variegated vines, and then it has this one that's kind of like not very variegated at the top, but then it's starting to get variegation at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, if you guys want, let me know in the comments if you would like to see a video of me trying to get variegation back on some of my non-variegated plants, because I think that'd be really fun to make, and I'd love to show you my way of doing it. This is another small leafed Hoya that you can let trail down your plant shelf, and it grows like a weed. It's really easy to propagate. It's a good investment plant, and it's just so pretty and so unique. I love the shape of the leaves. It's almost like a tear shaped. I love how on the outer edges of the leaves is dark green, similar to the Heuschkeliana Variegata. See? They have that really similar look, except for the Hoya Variegated has a little bit more of a lime green center as opposed to the yellowy center of the Heuschkeliana. The new leaves on this plant also come in pink, which is super pretty. I love new leaves that come in pink, which is also similar. Oh, I should have brought that one down. My Hoya Crimson Queen, the new leaves come in pink and you can get like white vines on that. It's so pretty. That's another good one. But similar to the Alocasia Wentii Variegata, you can let it dry out for a bit and it'll be fine. Just don't let it dry out for too long and it will just keep growing. It doesn't really skip a beat. This plant hasn't given me many issues at all except for this vine, which is the only vine that it's ever pushed in the, I think, 3 years I've owned it that has been not as variegated. But you will get new vines pop out of the top of the plant and grow quite often. So it's really nice to have a plant that will fill out on its own and you don't have to keep chopping and propagating and putting the vines back into the pot. This one kind of just does it on its own, which is really cool. So if you're looking for an easy variegated Hoya, Hoya Bella, Lida Buis, or the inner variegated Hoya Bella is your girl. Next up, we have Epipremnum Marble, and look at that. Wow. I remember when this plant first hit the market, I was like, I need one of those so bad. And this one that I have is more highly variegated. I've seen them come super variegated, lower variegated, and I was really lucky to score a nice variegated one. This plant too is another one that just grows like a weed. I actually am going to chop this one up and I'm going to put it on a pole because I do want to see those big, beautiful fenestrated leaves. And the difference of having something like the variegated heart leaf is this one is an epipremnum, so the leaves do split, which I think is super cool. You can get the big, beautiful, large fenestrated leaves, which is so magical to see. Like, I would feel so accomplished as a plant mom if I could get this to grow those big, lush leaves. Oh, it would be so rewarding. This one almost looks like the Snow Queen Pothos actually, but it is different. The newer leaves on mine are coming out kind of like half moony, and you can see it is the same as that one as well. I really like this a lot. I love my epipremnums. They grow super quickly. They attach to moss poles very easily. I don't think oh yeah, I have propagated this before. I used to have another one as well. So this one propagates really easily in water or perlite. Epipremnums in general like to be watered more often, I've found in my conditions. This one's just living in my tent, but I could have it out on my shelf and it would do just fine. I'm actually going to move it out of my tent for a project that I have coming up on my channel. So we're going to get her on a pole and we're going to get her climbing and we are going to get the large, beautiful split leaves of our dreams. Epipremnum Marble. And then we are going to talk about Philodendron Florida Beauty. This plant, I was gifted a cutting of this exact plant, like 1.5 to 2 years ago now from my friend Gems. And wow, it has just grown like a beast. This is a cutting of that plant. That plant was huge. I'll see if I can find a picture and I'll put it up here. I'm not sure, but I think I have one on my Instagram I can put in. And it was just getting too tall and too out of control and I didn't know how to extend moss poles or any of that stuff. So I just chopped it up and I sold a bunch of cuttings. The one thing I will say about this plant is it can be a bit more difficult to root. So if you are a beginner and you're wanting to try this plant out, look for an established plant or an established cutting that is already rooted. I've had success rooting this plant and then I've had some cuttings that have just taken forever, and I have a cutting upstairs still that just hasn't rooted. It's just chilling and it's been like 6 months. So yes, this plant can be a bit more difficult to root, but I would suggest trying to air layer it, which is where you would wrap moss around the aerial roots or put it on a moss pole so that the roots will just go into the pole if you want to chop it. This plant boasts beautiful, like creamy white and yellow and green variegation, which is so stunning. I am just in awe of every new leaf that this plant puts out. This new one looks like it's going to be quite light, which I'm excited to see. I haven't had any issues with this plant besides watering. So I do want to get this one. Actually, no, this is one of the ones I wanted to put on a bamboo stake to see if I could get to size up. So I'm going to do that and see how that goes. And I will definitely keep you guys posted. I just have her in my aeroid mix and she's rooting up nicely in there. So if you're looking for the beautiful Florida shaped philodendron leaf, with beautiful variegation and you're stuck between the Florida Ghost and the Florida Beauty, I would suggest the Florida Beauty. I've never grown the Ghost. I used to have one, but I just never had enough light for it and it never came out white for me. I don't know if mine was reverted or if it was actually not a Florida Ghost, but it literally drove me crazy and put a bad taste in my mouth. The Florida Beauty is just, it's so pretty. Next up is Hoya Mathilde Silver or Splash. This is a very silvery vine that I have, and I love this plant so much. This plant grows so quickly. I've topped this so many times. I have a couple different cuttings going actually. The one thing with this plant is sometimes it will throw out more splashy vines than silver, and I haven't tried experimenting with it to see if I can get the silver back, but that is another one I could propagate for a video to see if we can get the variegation back. I think that'd be a super fun experiment. I got this plant because I think that small-leaved Hoyas with silver on them are just stunning, and this one actually the leaves get pretty big on it. So I think Hoya Mathilde is a hybrid of Hoya serpens and Hoya carnosa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Hoya serpens is another one that I just absolutely love as well. And I have picked up recently the Hoya serpens Splash or Silver, but I haven't grown it for long enough to really put any opinion on it. So I'll give you some updates on that one in the future, but for now it's kind of just sitting in my prop box and I want to see what kind of variegation I will get on the vines. This one propagates super easily. My go-to to propagate this one is perlite or moss. The vines aren't really long enough for water, like the internodal spacing of the vines. They're kind of smaller, so you could use water, but you would have to use a smaller cup and it would dry out super fast. This one roots up very quickly. This one you can have trailing or trellised. And if you grow it in lower light, the green on it comes out more dark. But if you grow it in higher light, then the green will be more of like a light, kind of like almost bleached looking green. So you can kind of pick what you want your plant to look like depending on how much light you give it. And I've also noticed that the higher the light, the more long and slender the leaves become, and the lower light, the more circular they are. So that's also something interesting that you can apply to most Hoyas. You can kind of get them to look like whatever you want. I like the darker foliage and the bigger leaves, and that's another thing too. If you give it more light, the leaves will be smaller, not just more slender, like they'll come out smaller. If you have it in lower light, the leaves will get bigger. But lower light is not super low light. Lower light is like a barina, down far from a barina maybe. I've had this one in my sun stress tent, and I think that's where this long slender leaf came, and then now I just have it under my barinas on my shelf, and it's growing these kind of more darker, more circular leaves, which I prefer. But if you're looking for a good investment Hoya, this one also could make you some cash. It grows like a weed. It's super pretty. Everybody's always looking for it, and it's just a staple. And it's a Hoya Mathilde. Like Hoya Mathildes grow super quick. Last up, I'm going to finish with my Alocasia Gageana Aurea, and I believe this one is also Odora. So Alocasia Odora Gageana Aurea, or something like that. I'm not sure what they're calling it these days. They're always changing plant names and it gets so confusing sometimes. This plant is another one I bought as a small baby, and it took off. Look at that leaf. Like, that is so stunning. I did have more highly variegated leaves on this plant, but I went on vacation and I left my plants in the dark, which I should not have done, and some of the variegated leaves melted off, which totally understandable. You need to give variegated leaves light for them to maintain the variegation. If you find your leaves are melting, try to give it higher light and see if that helps. I have this one right now in water because I wanted to repot it, and I just put it in water in between repots so that I can grow some new water roots and the transition will be a lot smoother. I really like the shape of this leaf. It's kind of like ruffled and wavy. I think that is very unique to this plant. I love the yellow variegation. I think it's almost like a dark yellow, which is really interesting. It's kind of like the Florida Beauty, but darker even. Like that. Yeah, that's very similar. That's so pretty. But this plant also grows like a weed. It is rather thirsty. It's easy to get baby corms from this plant. I have some growing upstairs actually, and I think so far all of them have been variegated, so that's good. I have a new leaf coming in and I'm really excited. I want to see what it looks like. I need to pot this up actually. I'll probably do that in an upcoming video. But if you're looking for an affordable alocasia that is variegated to start off your variegated plant collection, this one is a great choice. Anyways, I hope you guys found this information useful, and if you liked it, please subscribe to my channel for more planty content and have the best day.